can't actually believe the new season. Last season it was about 21 coming home, 21 never came home. But I am sure that Ten Hag is a miracle worker. I am very sure he's a miracle worker.
Another season, and you're with your noise again.
I'm surprised.
You see, I keep telling you, in the preseason I saw a particular picture of Anthony Martial, Marcus Rashford, and Jadon Sancho.
Okay.
Those guys, terrorists in chief. They are going to terrorize a lot of defenses this season.
We'll see about that.
I think that this season is going to be actually marvelous, and I am hoping that we get all of the drama. I'm hoping my friends don't get to 20, and hopefully we can talk about one in 8.
Truth to be told, we will have an interesting season. I look around and some of the signings that teams have made, and I can bet that it's going to be very, very unpredictable, especially the race for the top 4.
I think it will be more about 20 as opposed to 21 coming home.
What time will tell?
20.
Why can't they get to 20?
I think that based on the track record, they cannot easily get to 20. It looks like 7. It looks like working in odd numbers. You understand? We cannot get an even number. It will be
9 because you look at your noisy neighbors.
City has how many titles?
City has 8.
So far, they have 8.
Yes, so we to get to 9.
We'd rather let them get to 9
as opposed to 20.
They are no even numbers. Only odd numbers. That's what he says.
So speaking of 21 itself, yes. You look at United. How do you think Eric Ten Hag will be the savior? Look at how he ended last season, extremely disastrous, both on and off the field. This season hasn't started any different. Ronaldo's drama, and you think that's all that matters? You think one man changes the entire fortunes?
Well, I think that for a long time we've talked about coaches and their impact. I mean, listen, like he constantly tells me that the biggest currency any club can have has to be their coach.
But this is a man who only has the Champions League semi-finals as his CV.
That's all that he needs. I mean, if you cast your mind around and you look back, I mean, when Jurgen Klopp was coming to Liverpool, he just had the Champions League final.
Yeah, the Bundesliga.
Yes, I mean, but Ajax is also a big team, a team that's won multiple.
You want to compare the Bundesliga to the Eredivisie?
No, obviously, Ajax is a bigger platform than Dortmund can ever be. You understand?
If
you look at everything that Ten Hag has been able to do, yes.
If you look at the current terrain, the Dutch league is nowhere close to the Bundesliga in terms of competition, in terms of pedigree, everything. Yes, when you talk about track record and history, Ajax are on top. They are way ahead of Borussia Dortmund and the other teams in the Bundesliga. But truth be told, the Bundesliga, in terms of the quality it produces, the Bundesliga in terms of its pedigree, you cannot compare the Dutch league. Listen, the Dutch league is practically made of kids. But that's the truth. And you see, I understand. For me, I feel United's big signing this season has got to be Eric Ten Hag. He's that guy who a lot of people would be looking at to bring in the changes. And I'm not so much concerned about the issue with Ronaldo. I'm very certain that he knows what he's doing. He does not want to destabilize the team, because the last thing you want to do is, the biggest man in the room is Ronaldo in terms of the players. He walks into the room and literally sucks up the oxygen in the entire room. If I look at what he's trying to do, he's trying to stabilize the team, take away the Ronaldo attention from the pressure on the team. I'm sure behind closed doors, he knows that Ronaldo will not be a key or marquee figure in going into the season. So for me, I think that I am a bit disappointed with the signings that Manchester United have made going into the season. Well, yes, they've brought in Malacia, they've brought in, what's his name?
Ericsson on a free.
That guy, I have my own issues with him. He betrayed Brentford. Brentford literally gave him a lease of life into football.
There's loyalty in football in this day and age.
I feel that he should have been very, very loyal to Brentford, because listen, after his episode, and sorry for what happened to him, a lot of clubs were not willing to go close to him, but Brentford said, hey, we are willing to take that risk on you. He comes and literally he has an okay half season. Then when the opportunity presents itself for Brentford to sign you, you decide to let them down.
Well, I think that if you look at Manchester United and the signings they've made, if you look at some of the decisions that they've made, I think it's about trying to retune the culture, trying to retune the dressing room, trying to retune the style of play. More importantly, people are excited about Erik ten Hag because of the style of play. There has to be something synonymous to a blueprint that Manchester United are seeking to work on. And I think that if you look around, all of the clubs that have been successful recently, these are clubs that have gotten a particular blueprint. And so that's why I am particularly excited about Erik ten Hag and what he brings to Manchester United.
21 is definitely not coming up. Let's actually talk about serious contenders.
Well, I think 21 could come home.
Maybe in the,
everything is
in the
possible.
foreseeable future, but let's talk about Liverpool. Let's talk about
Serious
Manchester.
contenders.
Those are the serious contenders.
And on a bit of Liverpool, and like you said, in the last 5 seasons, Liverpool and City have shared the league trophy. The City winning 4 out of the 5, Liverpool winning 1. These are the main contenders, and clearly they've set themselves apart from the chasing pack. The Community Shield is a clear example. You could see the level of football. It's just one of those preseason games. But I think that you could clearly see the quality on display on the other day. Even though City, you could see most of them were a bit not prepared for the season, because going into that game, City had just played 2 games ahead of that game. But I think that, you see, truth be told, let us all agree, these 2 teams set themselves apart from the chasing pack.
Difficult for the chasing packers to be there. Each of these 2 who were neck and neck in last season's race have strengthened as opposed to the chasing pack. You look at City, they brought in Haaland, they brought in Calvin Phillips, they brought in Alvarez, they've lost Fernandinho, and they've lost
Sterling and Gabriel Jesus as well. Yeah.
Yes, you can make
those are the signings that you feel these are the team that they've lost players, but they've equally got good replacement. You look at Liverpool, they've lost Sadio Mane, but they brought in Darwin Núñez. They've also got Carvalho
from Fulham,
and they've got a good bargain, having to let out go Neco Williams, bring in Calvin Ramsey for 4 times the price they sold Neco Williams. So you look at all of these enforcements. You look at the chasing pack. United not doing anything. Chelsea, the least the better.
There's a reason why I've actually revised my note on the top 4 teams that will end up in the top 4, and probably when we get to Chelsea we'll talk about that. But it's true. My excitement is that these 2 teams in City and Liverpool, though they've lost a couple of players, 1 or 2, but the shape of the team is still intact, and the ability to find players that in a way can seamlessly slot in is what has made these 2 teams great in the last 5 seasons, because Liverpool signed and they signed well. City signed and they signed well. It takes a while for them to get into their groove, but they signed very well. When we're talking about Manchester United, we refuse to talk about the fact that they lost a key figure in Paul Pogba. No? Forget about all his issues. But if you have a Paul Pogba in your team, he was very inconsistent. Yes. That's true. He chooses when to play football. But if you have a Paul Pogba, you need to replace a Paul Pogba. That's why I can understand that when they are so keen on getting Frankie de Jong, because last season United's issue was the fact that they didn't have somebody who could control games. Who?
Would he ever arrive? It looks to me he prefers playing at centre back at Barcelona as opposed to playing in his preferred midfield position.
Well, I think we better move on to serious subject matters and serious footballers.
On the bit of the serious football issues, I don't know your take. What do you think when Núñez was having his preseason with Chelsea,
for me,
Liverpool?
Everything is preseason. I am not too interested about Liverpool and preseason.
But how do you see Núñez in the Liverpool?
Let me tell you something. There's something you cannot take away from Darwin Núñez. He's a typical number 9, and I think that he adds a new dimension to all of the attacking depth that Liverpool does have. If you look at Núñez, and particularly anybody who watched that particular Charity Shield game, his movement
will be very key.
His movement.
Very key.
If you watch that game, you realize that what Liverpool sought to do was to bypass the midfield.
Yeah.
Obviously, we all know for ages that there's not a lot of quality in that Liverpool midfield. Yes,
that's another problem with the Liverpool team. There is no creative element in that midfield, and they are aging. Both Fabinho and Thiago Alcantara's, priceless, asset is his ability to find spaces. Exactly. That's the only thing he does, and that's well. Fabinho is somebody who breaks play and all of that, but there's no for Jordan Henderson, the least said about him, the better.
He's a celebrated captain. I mean, if we could put it that way.
There we go
If we want
again.
to speak about new dimensions, I think Arsenal are bringing a different dimension to next season's top four.
Yes,
Look
I
at the
agree,
business, and it clearly shows we could have a race on our hands.
Well,
next
I
year.
agree.
The Arsenal fans should be excited. I'm excited.
No,
We say
I
Arsenal.
agree to the Arsenal base. They are signing a lot of players. They've signed Gabriel Jesus. They've signed Zinchenko. They've signed everybody that they need to sign. But once Arteta remains the manager,
But this,
I am not convinced about the
you've
Arsenal
got to be
project.
convinced with Arteta,
No,
because
I am not.
You look at last season, the project had to be finding a particular style, finding an identity. After finding the identity, one of the Arsenal's Achilles heels has got to be the squad depth they lack.
Yeah.
Kieran Tierney goes off, and the entire team is broken down. This season, they brought in Zinchenko. You look at Arsenal last season, they lost Aubameyang along the way. Lacazette was misfiring. Edin Ketia tried to be the last-minute savior. They found the proper goal scorer in the shape of Gabriel Jesus.
Well,
You put all these together, and you shudder to think how Arsenal can finish outside the top four. The only problem, probably you look at Arsenal and say, has got to be the fact that consistency. They were consistently inconsistent.
Yeah.
At a point in time, with games in hand, had a healthy advantage over the rest. Still managed to finish 2 points outside the top four.
That's true.
well, you see, I speak of Arsenal. Yes, I'm excited about all of the signings they've made. I think they've made some shrewd signings. And I think a lot of credit also needs to be given to City, given the amount of transfer business they've been able to
Raking the
acquire
cash.
out of their players, the players they've sold. You see, we talk about character, we talk about consistency, we talk about drive. All of this has to emanate from the coach. You understand? That's why I am not too convinced about the Arsenal project at this material time. Because I pick a typical scenario. Granted that all 4 or 5 teams, I mean Tottenham, Chelsea, Liverpool, City, to a large extent Manchester United, granted all of them are in a neck-to-neck race. Who is the odd one out? You understand? Who is the odd one out? Because you look at the
Manchester
pedigree. There's no way you can compare the pedigree of Eric Ten Hag and Arteta. You look
may
at
not be
the
able to
managers.
compare
You look
pedigree,
at
but
the.
you may be able
You
to
look.
compare the squad.
No, I don't think Arsenal has a better squad than Manchester United. Honestly, I don't.
Where's the
Arsenal
squad come
do.
from? Arsenal do have
a better squad than Manchester United.
Who
Arsenal
who
has-
is in defense? Gabriel and who?
You've got
William
Ben White,
Saliba?
You've got William Saliba.
Saliba.
Saliba was best defender in the French league.
Ex-
last
and-
Farmers League.
Oh, please.
Saliba.
Are we going there?
Saliba.
Are we going there?
We're talking about Saliba.
There is
Saliba,
enough
Saliba.
quality to go around in the French league. On the bit of Arteta, I think that one thing a lot of people have been unfair, in my honest opinion, is we've been very unfair with Arteta. He walks into this team. It's a new team.
He was ejected and broken. Actually.
Exactly. He literally put pieces together. If you watch Arsenal last season, for me, the second half of the season, they're one of the best teams in the league. Though they didn't make the top 4.
They only lost out
exactly
because they had lost Thomas Partey.
No, they were one of-
and all their strikers as well.
All of those things have been remedied in this transfer.
And
They were
one thing-
one of the best teams until the end. And that's what makes them not a good team.
And what
what
the
was
coach,
the undoing at the end?
because
Is
they lost certain players.
The undoing at the end was a lack of proper consistency, was a lack of character.
But you
was the
see,
thing squad.
but
These
Kofi,
are things that you
Kofi,
cannot put a price on.
Kofi, herein you talk about character. They've brought in players that know how to win. They've brought in players that have been managed by a manager with one of the biggest characters you can talk about in Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko. I listened to Granit Xhaka in an interview where he spoke about the fact that one thing he loves about Gabriel Jesus is his winning mentality. If you have at least 2 of these players in your starting 11, they change the whole dynamics. And if you watch Arsenal, yes, it's preseason. I don't rant and rave about preseason, but there's a certain new vibe about this
There's a
Arsenal
mood.
team.
There's a mood,
And for
different
me,
mood altogether.
that is all you need, a momentum. And tactically, is Arteta good? I think he's a good manager. Technically, are the players good? I think technically they are good. In football, you need just 2 things: the tactical prowess of the manager and the technical abilities of the players. You do not tell me that the players that Arsenal have got, they are bad, because no team in this world has a perfect 11.
Can you cite me that example? You talk about tactical ability, you talk about technical ability. When Barcelona were being hammered 8-2 by
teams have their bad day.
I mean, when Barcelona led by that chief mercenary.
There we go again. There we go again. Teams have their bad day.
No, but you can use the Barcelona model. You understand? If you Barcelona 3 seasons in a run had all of the things that they claim to have.
Every team hits its prime, then descends. That's what Barcelona is going through. We are not even talking about Barcelona.
I think one of the things we've got to look out for has got to be the chief architects, the players.
Yeah.
I'm particularly focused about the Golden Boot race. It looks mouth-watering this season. Erling Haaland, Mohamed Salah, Harry Kane,
Son,
Son,
Darwin Núñez.
I don't think you'll be in the equation. I don't think.
Put in Raheem Sterling, because literally Chelsea will be relying on him to be banging the goals. If you look at the forward line of Chelsea last season, Kai Havertz, Timo Werner, Romelu Lukaku, the best they did was not even cross 10 goals.
That's true.
And that, for me, for a club like Chelsea, it's very disappointing. That's why a lot of the burden will be on Raheem Sterling. That is if they do not sign any attacker. For me, I think that a lot of the burden will be on Raheem Sterling to deliver, because he's literally one of those players in the EPL. In the last 6-7 seasons, he's hit over 100 goals, 150 plus goals in assists. Brilliant for Raheem Sterling. But can he do same in the Chelsea setup? A quick one on this Chelsea bit. I've heard people talk about Todd Bowley and he's not a football person.
It's a new era. Many have seemingly forgotten about the story, how Abramovich had to leave. It was actually the biggest story, I think, at the tail end.
And my disappointment, Kofi, is the fact that people do not know that for an American sports franchise owner, he knows how to conduct businesses than anybody, because how trades happen in American sport fan is even more complicated than football. Or either you have to pay the asking price or you pay the release clause and just take. But for other sports in American, like basketball per se, it's a bit complicated. Yeah, a lot of things complicated. So I think that the problem of Chelsea not being able to sign is basically down to the fact that the players that they are looking for are players that are interested in not playing for Chelsea.
Who are they looking for?
They went after Rafinha. Rafinha from day one has said he wanted to play. So it's not necessary that Chelsea is not doing what they have to do right. 2, you will know that last season they could have signed Jules Kounde. Yeah. This season too, they could have. Monchi has come out to say certain things. Kounde himself has also said that no, he said he wanted to play for Barcelona, so Sevilla should wait. For me, I think that is the entire Chelsea setup. Listen, they've lost Mariana. Which appeal?
The appeal of wanting to attract players.
No, they've not lost their appeal. Chelsea have. When they had Jose Mourinho, Chelsea was one of the most appealing clubs in England. Unless you want to, turn a blind eye to that. In the last 20 seasons or 20 years in English football, Chelsea have been one of the best clubs in England. This is a team in the last 20 years. I mean, they've won two Champions League.
The records speak for itself. But you see, the issue with Sterling and the issue with Chelsea, they need to sign a centre forward. If they don't sign a centre forward, they are going to be.
It's not necessarily about getting a centre forward.
Because I don't trust Raheem Sterling to get me 20 goals.
They do not need a centre forward. Do you know why? Liverpool play without a centre forward. City played without a centre forward. Last season, City scored 99 goals.
Yes, but I mean,
without a centre forward.
You take the Chelsea squad.
All you need is a system that can get the best out of the materials you have in terms of your forwards. That's what we should be talking about.
But you look at this Tuchel system all throughout his reign.
He got a centre forward in Lukaku. What happened?
He got a centre forward in Lukaku. It didn't work.
So it's not necessarily about getting a centre forward. That's what I'm saying.
At Paris Saint-Germain, it worked out. He was getting the goals for fun.
Do you know that
back to his days at
Kylian Mbappe never played as a centre forward? He actually played out wide. So it's not necessarily about getting a center forward. If he had a Kylian
It's about
Mbappe,
finding the goals. But you look at this Chelsea team,
Yeah.
Who gets you
beyond
that?
Raheem
Yes.
Sterling,
I mean,
there's
who gets you
nobody. It would
15
interest you
goals?
to note, since Eden Hazard left, you've not had a player who's actually hit the
because
total number of goals he scored in a
they've not
particular season.
recruited right, in my honest opinion.
The likes
Last,
of Pulisic, Kai Havertz,
come on,
Timo Werner.
even Pulisic at his days at Dortmund, how many goals was he
Well, but
scoring
I
a
think
season?
if Pulisic can get fit and proper, I think that he's a player with immense potential.
Potential, yes.
he's a
Mason
player
Mount
who
is
get-
even
who-
more efficient in front of goal than Pulisic.
Well, I trust Mason Mount.
He's
But
Exactly.
the top scorer last season.
So
I
if you
still
can
think they
fashion-
need a proper goal scorer.
Fine,
they
if
don't
you
get
can
a proper
fashion
goal
a
scorer,
system
they
that
are
can
going to be in
accommodate
trouble.
a player like Mason Mount up front, there's nothing wrong trying him up front because we've seen certain teams do that. We've seen Raheem Sterling last season City try playing him
Playing
as
him false nine.
a false nine.
No, you see, Lucky, the thing you don't get is with the EPL, there's nothing like a testing out period.
Oh, there is.
Before you
Probably you
finish
might want-
testing
you might-
out.
You might want to look at the opening
No, but
stages of
there
the
is.
season.
but if you do not make up for the gap early, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to play catch
You
up
won't.
all throughout the
Speaking
season.
of making the gap, which is actually much more important, how you start or how you finish.
How you finish?
Well, I think it's how you start.
City 2 seasons ago.
Lost the
They
opening games.
not even their opening games. By the time they had played 10 games, City were somewhere around 14th. They put together a run of about 15 games unbeaten. They ended up winning the league. You just need to have a very consistent run. For the EPO, I've realized that in the last few years, back then, if you have 80 points, you can easily win the league. Now, you need to clock more than 85, get close to 90 before you can actually win the league. That means that you are literally talking about winning close to about 30 games.
But I think if you
City,
have not built,
Liverpool last year, they lost just 3.
If you've not built enough foundation, you wouldn't be able to go on that type.
Do that.
So
That's
it's
why-
about how you start much more rather than
Well,
how
I
you
think
finish.
it's about how you start.
Well,
Because if you
I
look
disagree.
If
Listen.
you look at Manchester United and the era they dominated the league, I mean, it was
They won
it
the
was
league
just
practically by December.
I mean, so it's
Because
just about
the other chasing pack were not good.
No,
simple.
I-
The other-
I-
in the era when
you know why-
Manchester United were bossing the Premier League, the other
That's
chasing
fine,
pack were
that's
not
fine,
good. There are
that's
just
fine.
about 2 good teams in
That's
Arsenal.
But
There
hasn't
was
the
a
Premier
time.
League always been a two-horse race.
It has always been a 2-horse race, but the other 2, the other 3, the other 6 were very, very good as well.
You know,
back then or now?
Back then, if it was United, there was a time it was United Chelsea that were battling. There was a time it was United Arsenal. Take them out, the rest were all rubbish. Now, if a Tottenham Hotspur, if you look now, if a Tottenham Hotspur can decide to have Ivan Perisic, Kulichevsky,
It's finished goods.
Harry Kane,
Perisic is finished.
songs. That's why I feel, even in the conversation of who will end up winning the league, we should bring in Tottenham Hotspur because last season they were the only team that actually beat City home and away and drew with Liverpool home and away. The top 2, nobody could beat them.
Well,
and this season they have even strengthened.
Well,
they have Fraser Foster as well.
Just a quick one. I think that it's about how you start because you are going to be distracted with a lot of European action. And listen, I mean, City so much wants to win the Champions League. I think that Liverpool wants to win the Champions League
Because
again. They
now the
want
league is
so
for me.
much want to
The
win
league
Champions
is just
League.
like a give and go
You
thing for
understand?
these 2 teams.
But I think that when you're able to do your business right and from the beginning, what it gives you is that it gives you a laxity when it comes to the home stretch. You understand? You're able to focus attention on the cup competitions. You're able to focus a lot of attention, especially in the Champions League when they come thick and fast. You understand? So you're able to build a good enough buffer between yourself and the chasing pack. Then you're
Kofi,
good to go.
Dave, do you know why I disagree with Kofi on this? If you watch the Premier League and the trajectory of the Premier League, most of the times these smaller teams end up by the time we play about four or 5 games, they end up at Everton last
The
season.
relegation
Everton was
spots,
there,
because
and
there's the Burnley model
Yeah.
where they give their all at the till end of the season, and there's the Brentford model where you start off right, get the buffer, and then the rest.
I'll
of
give
the
you a
season-
typical example. Everton last season, by the time we had played 5 games, they were
They were
they-
actually, you've even gone too far. Newcastle, I think, after 13 games,
Yes. They're still in the bottom three.
But how exactly? For me, how you finish is very. Do you know why? Because when you are getting to either you get to the middle of the park or the tail end of the season, at that time, teams have found their groove. Because in the early stages of the season, some teams are getting to try out tactics. Some teams are bringing in players. They are trying to find their groove. But when you get to the tail end of the season, teams have already found their groove. Now you are playing the best of the best. So if you're able to push well, Spurs got into the Champions League
because there's the element of fatigue. If you start off right, you come straight from preseason. You've got all of the energy. You've got all of the excitement. You've got all of the
zeal.
Imagine 10 seasons into
the league.
I think we spoke about numbers. And
what do you think will win the league?
I may lean more towards an odd number, being 9, as opposed to an even number.
So that makes it 1 in 8, 1 in almost 8.
Why are you throwing? Why are you throwing subtle jabs at Liverpool?
Well, I think that I am interested in who gets to win the league eventually because I
think City. I find it hard to find anybody stopping them from.
For some strange reason, I have a strange feeling City won't win the league this season.
Who will?
I don't know, but anybody but City and Liverpool.
So we are looking at.
No, I haven't made that admission yet. I think that it will not be City. It will not be Liverpool. I think that this season is going to be a whole new surprise package.
But let's look at the fixture list, and it starts on Friday.
Yeah,
Arsenal versus Crystal Palace. It's a game that last season derby produced so much excitement. Arsenal actually had to be saved at the death at the Emirates. Lacazette's late.
Teams like Crystal Palace, they are very stubborn. They know how to play these big boys, but I think that for the first time, Arsenal will put Crystal Palace in their rightful
place. There's an element of Arsenal
for the very first
Friday night. Last season they had to do it on Friday night against Brentford.
I picked 2 dark horses to cause a stir in this season's Premier League in Spurs. They are my first dark horse. Actually, I rank them and rate them. Spurs are likely to place 3rd or even finish 2nd. Spurs, Arsenal are my 2 dark horses.
Arsenal will win on the opening day.
Arsenal will win on the opening. Arsenal will beat Crystal Palace.
You think Arsenal can win the league? No, it won't happen.
They are my dark horse. Arsenal will happen. There are a lot of things
there are a lot of uncertainties.
No, you don't just rise from the ashes and win the league.
Arsenal are not rising from the ashes. They've been building gradually.
When was the last time Arsenal played in the top 4?
It's been 7 years without
exactly. So you don't just rise from the ashes.
But where did Leicester come from?
Leicester
popped up and won the league.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally some of these things happen.
So take it that one of those occasions.
If Arsenal can win the league, Dave, Manchester United can win the league.
Let's get serious.
I am serious. If Arsenal can, if Lucky is picking Arsenal to be one of the dark horses.
Well, I think let's look at the City ground.
Yeah.
In a long while, I think 23 years.
Yeah.
It's never been a venue in the Premier League.
Yeah.
But this year we've got Nottingham Forest returning.
Yeah.
Fulham themselves, it's take 3. They are back again. Season, they've gone down, come back. I think, and then we have got an exciting season on our hands. And I think I'm going to lean towards City winning the league. Spurs 3rd. Liverpool 2nd, and for the 4th, I give it to Arsenal.
Ironically, that's where I see things.
Think
Arsenal
Ten Hag wouldn't make the top 4.
Well, I think
that's quite a prediction.
If he's going to make the top 4,
I think that's
maybe
quite
even 2 seasons.
I think that's where the surprise will hit you. But I look at the teams.
Give us your top 4.
My top 4. You
see, you're struggling. No, you can't even say, okay, top 4, United 4.
I don't want to make it in any order, but my top 4, Liverpool will be there.
You've got to
we need you to be bold. Just as you are bold to say Arsenal are not good.
Arsenal are not good enough to be in the top 4.
So who's going to be in the top 4?
I mean,
who's winning?
If you pushed me to the wall, City will win the league.
But you just said earlier that you do not see City winning the league.
No, because I'm trying to be a conformist. You understand? I mean, City will win the league. I think there will be Liverpool in there. I think there will be Spurs. I think there will be Manchester United. That's what I think. And relegation battle. I think that I look at teams that have come into the league. Nottingham Forest, solid team with a solid history. They have won the Champions League twice. They are a team that's vociferous supporters. You understand? They are a team with tradition. They play football right. If you look at Nottingham Forest and how long they've had to be in the abyss. If you look at their managerial appointments, I think that they're a team that will stay. You understand? I think that they are making very shrewd signings.
Steve Cooper is actually a good manager.
Yes, Steve Cooper is the man who turned around their fortune. Yes.
Unfortunately, he missed out.
Ironically, I would disagree with Kofi. Yes, they pretty have a very solid unit. But in my honest opinion, I think that teams that will get relegated, Nottingham Forest to go back. You see,
Nottingham Forest are going back.
They're going back. There's a big difference between playing the Champions League and in the Premier League. Yes, this season, my disappointment is that we've not seen some of these teams that struggle to make the Premier League or stay in the Premier League do a lot of signings. Leicester are yet to sign a single player, and they are losing Kasper Schmeichel as well. I think Forest will go back, Fulham will go back, Leeds last season they escaped by the grace of God. But this time, I think the presence might leave them. Leeds will get relegated this season.
Looking at Leeds, basically going down because they didn't do things right.
But
on second thought, it's the first full season of Jesse March.
Yeah.
And he's had
I think he's a good manager.
Jesse, he's not. I think we've thrown out the word good. The word good has been bundled around a lot. He's an okay manager.
He's had a feel of the Premier
He's
League.
okay.
And I think just maybe if he works things right, he could get.
If Leeds would stay up, the only team that will probably replace them is Bournemouth. We might just see the three teams that came back go back again
Versus Trophy Case.
Because he.
So 20 teams, 380 games, and
I'm back.
But Kofi,
yes.
On that note, so you are looking at Kevin De Bruyne topping the assists, followed by. Give us your top three.
I think Kevin De Bruyne will be there. I think Human Song will be there.
Wow,
yes, I think Human Song. I mean, it's really underrated.
Last year he was in the top 5.
Yes. Overlooking Mohamed Salah.
Most chances created, he was in there.
He makes a lot of goals. I think that Bruno Fernandes will be there.
So these are your top 3.
Maybe I'll give you a top 4. I mean, I think Bruno Fernandes will be there. I think that Human Song will be there. I think that Kevin De Bruyne will be there. I think that still Alexander-Arnold will be there.
Guys, the season is about to start. It kicks off on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We might see some blockbuster games, but I'm sure we cannot do without our fans. So, hey, you can go to our comment section. Just comment on the stories you've heard. Comment on any issue that pricked your attention. You can follow us on all our social media handles. Yeah.
On Twitter, it's Sports101. It's Sports101 on Facebook, Sports101 on Instagram as well.
Yeah. More importantly, Lucky talks about the fact that you can comment. Tell us what you want us to be doing, and then we will get it done.
It's an interactive show. We are doing it with you. So just go to the comment section. Every and anything. We take feedbacks, critics, and everything. So hey, just let it flow. We are doing this with you. And like Kofi said, subscribe and like, and watch the videos as well.
And like and subscribe.